Free Skaro!
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Radio Free Skaro, episode number 862. I am Stephen in Edmonton.
Warren in Vancouver.
And Heather in San Diego.
Heather in San Diego. Yay. We're back, everyone. Mostly Chris and Kat are still in the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, touring, filming locations of the Claws of Axos at last report.
Not making that up. That's true.
literally what happened. So once again, our sort of semi-regular third chair, Heather Berberet, fresh off COVID, about to head to San Diego Comic-Con herself, because it's San Diego Comic-Con weekend, is here to join. I remember when I planned this months in advance, because we planned to take a little time off to do vacations and stuff, and thought, hey, maybe there will be Doctor Who news at San Diego Comic-Con.
Okay. That's a good one.
Nope.
There wasn't.
Nope.
No panels, no anything. I mean, you've been there, a couple days now, Heather. We're recording this on Saturday morning, so you haven't quite seen the full weekend crowd yet, but is there any Doctor Who presence whatsoever
Is
at
there
San
cosplay?
Diego?
That's usually a good temperature taker.
Yeah.
I mean, very little. I think I saw a 10th wandering around. I've seen some, like, you know how people do like TARDIS dresses and stuff. I've seen some t-shirts, but we did get a Doctor Who comics panel, which I missed because I was, I just gotten my negative test for COVID. So I took it a little easy that morning. So I didn't go in that early, but Paul was there, and,
Paul Cornell.
Oh, guys, I have COVID brain. Jody was there. Jody Hauser was there.
Yep.
So they had that. That's it. That is it. I would say it is the year of, other than the biggies, right? Because we've got Lotr's back with Power of the Rings, which is big deal. I'm seeing a lot of cosplay. We've got Game of Thrones is back with the new House of Dragon. So those are kind of, and then Marvel's here, but Marvel's always the big hitter at if it's here. So we've got, it's kind of back to the old Game of Thrones Lotr days, which is kind of fun. But I would say Star Trek would be the next prevailing cosplay, because, check this out. Who would have thought? Create a lot of content, get a lot of fan enthusiasm.
What are you talking about?
Blow my mind. Who would, So there's a lot of Star Trek content. And we're getting a big Star Trek panel today, which I really want to go to, but I'm not up for standing in line. No. But it's squished between House of Dragon and Marvel. So I don't know, but what's interesting is attendance is really down this year. We'll see what Saturday is the big day where, like, everybody who has a ticket comes.
Right.
But I couldn't believe how, like, Hall H has been walk-in for 2 days, which Hall H is the big 7,000 person room that people camp out overnight to go to, which I have done myself. And so rarely is it walk-in, but it was walk-in all day yesterday. So I don't know. Maybe we can walk in today. We'll have to see what happens.
I read in the Hollywood Reporter too that they a lot of this is not revenue that Comic-Con is making. It's they're making up for, because people who couldn't get in because it wasn't around in 2020 and 2021. A lot of those tickets are being honored now, so they're not actually making that much off of this.
Well, right. I mean, my ticket is a rollover ticket. So this is my ticket that I bought for 2020. And so they've been, I have to say, they were great about it. Everything got honored. Everything they could honor was honored. But we're curious. I don't know about the exhibitors. I don't know about the I don't know how they're working that side of the finances. It is different. I mean, the floor, like the exhibition floor, is really different. For example, not only is there no Doctor Who content being presented, the BBC America booth isn't even here. Like, that's my standard go-to for new merch. Not even here. There is not a whisper of Doctor Who. And there's a lot of new exhibitors on the floor, and some of the biggies from the past aren't here. So like, I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but it seems to me people took COVID as an opportunity to break traditions and habits and do new stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So there's new people on the floor. Apple Plus is here. They're brand new. Amazon Prime has been here, but they're a much bigger presence. Netflix is a much bigger presence. So the streaming platforms are taking up a lot more space and airtime than normally they have in the past. So, and one of the blogs that the San Diego Comic-Con unofficial blog, which is a great blog for people who want to figure out how to do this crazy con, their estimate was that attendance would be down 20 to 30%. And I think that's true. Just COVID, right? Just people who are getting sick, people who are afraid of getting sick, people who whatever. So we'll see.
I mean, you're invincible now, having just been off.
That's true.
Now. So
yep.
I'm like, mask? What's a mask?
Although I haven't seen a picture where everybody isn't masked, except for people like on a panel, which presumably they tested themselves for.
You know what? Everyone is masked because they said, if we catch you without a mask, your badge is getting revoked.
Wow.
Good.
And so imagine if the stick is big enough, everybody complies. So it's been great. Everyone is wearing it. The only people who are not masked is when you're on a panel, you're allowed to take your mask off. And otherwise, everyone's masked. So that's really great. And if I hadn't just recovered from COVID, I would feel much assured. But I did, so now I'm invincible, right?
100%.
That's how it works, I believe.
The antibodies, the antibodies are just flowing.
After I got it, I just drank sewage, rolled around in the
gutter. Your head in a toilet.
Right? Yeah,
I mean, more than usual.
Yeah. Did planks on the freeway. They go, I have nothing can get me now.
Sure, it's scam.
Yeah.
Let's see. I've done some stuff I got in the IMDb boat. They always park a boat out back and have a party. And it's a thing I've never done, but I was walking by yesterday morning and they're like, hey, you want to go on the boat? I'm like, yeah, I want to go on the boat. I've never been on the boat.
I don't even know what this boat is, but yes, I will get on your boat. That's what I would say.
Yeah. Well, it's a big yacht. IMDb rents out every year and they park it behind because the convention center is right on the bay. So there's always like boat con in the back, right? So there's a pirate ship that's doing beer. It's a bar. It's like a floating bar this year. Called the Voodoo Range or something, or I'm sure I mangled that. Anyway, there's always the IMDb boat. And so I got on it. They gave me breakfast. There was trivia. I got swag. So that swag's always the primo. Like if you can get free, swag.
Right.
That's the thing. And I saw Shatner on Shatner. They're doing a documentary. And he's a hoot. He's 91 years old. He looks like he's 75.
I know, it's amazing.
And he's just irascible. Like he just doesn't.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I read a thing about how he was being interviewed by Kevin Smith, and he was saying something along the lines of that Gene Roddenberry would be rolling in his grave if he saw what they're doing with new Star Trek. I'm like, Gene Roddenberry wasn't so good himself. So I'm not the world's biggest fan of a lot of new Star Trek, but so what?
Well, let's face it,
deal.
Roddenberry would have been rolling in his grave for Deep Space Nine. So, and this is
parts of TNG, frankly.
New Trek is way beyond that. Yeah.
Well, and what was funny about that moment is he said that, and there were some people, I guess, up the front were like, "Oh," and he's like, "Don't owe me. Have you worked for Gene? This guy is like
he's 91. Who'd be surprised?
He's 91, and he gets away with it.
Why are we surprised by this?
Yeah. So, so that was pretty fun. The Paper Girls panel was great. So check that out. I think it's dropping all at once next Friday on Amazon Prime. I went to a great panel on the science of the expanse that put on by our local hands-on science museum, Fleet Science Museum. Whole panel, all rocket scientists, all women.
Cool.
4 out of 5 are women of color. And they rocked it, man, talking about flip and burn and talking about approaching speed of light. And oh my God, it was a great panel. Room was packed. So that was fun. So yeah, it's been great. Been really good. Really good deal.
Well, that's good.
And I'm on a panel myself for the first time ever.
No way.
Tonight.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I have a pro badge, which is really, in my case, a quote unquote participant badge. It's kind of like getting the participant trophy.
Right.
Right. But it says pro, so that's fun. So me and my writing group are presenting kind of how to put a writing group together and how that's helpful for creatives and what to do. So we're excited about that. And here's the cool part. We're actually in a big room in the main convention center. And J.W. Szynski is right after us in the same room, which means there's going to be more than my bestie in the room. Right?
Wow.
I know.
JMS, what pray tell is his panel about? Is it just how I've been shafted by the science fiction community for the past 30 years?
And specifically the BBC?
Yeah.
He's been here a lot.
I suppose he probably has.
Promoting. He's got some stuff he's promoting because like they're doing some Babylon 5 stuff.
Right.
And so he's actually just doing a panel on writing. He's just going to talk about being a writer and being creative and the craft, if you will.
Right.
His book is great. I've actually got his book on writing and it's really
on writing,
fantastic. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm psyched. I don't have to wait in line for that because I'll already be in the room.
You'll just take your spot in the second row.
That's right.
And just ask questions of him even when he isn't asked. Because if you're in the second row of a panel, that's your right, nay, duty to do to assume you are a part of the panel because you are in direct, audio contact with the person. Don't do that. Don't ever do that, people. I'm serious. Don't ever be the person in the second row of the panel and just assume you can converse with the panel members. Please don't ever do that.
You know what? What I've learned is certain demographics don't even have to be in the second row to feel entitled to do that.
What demographics would those be?
That's true.
I want a Nerf gun that says "shut the F up," and I want to be able to shoot it. Because it's like they get up and they say, "Well, in my experience," I'm like, "I did not go through the hassle of waiting in line for 2 hours to hear your experience." Sit down.
More of a comment than
all that.
Yeah, but we all know this phenomenon.
Yeah. We do. Golly, I miss conventions. I
miss being annoyed by things.
I miss being able to complain about those people. Oh, well. They'll happen again. Like Gallifrey 1. We'll talk about Gallifrey 1 a little later in this podcast because the first guest announcement dropped. Tickets are still available, of course, for Gallifrey 1 in February of 2023. But the big news that happened this past week, and this kind of relate, honestly, the world of Doctor Who right now is basically literally everyone. The BBC fans, anyone who makes new Doctor Who, anyone who has made old Doctor Who is basically just, let's get that last episode out of the way so we can start talking about the stuff that we actually want to promote. It feels sad. It feels sad that Jodie Whittaker's era has sort of been mistreated and is just, it's like, it's a contractual obligation at this point, it feels.
It's fizzling. That's a good
it really is.
It is. It makes me so sad because I don't believe Jodie was well served by Chibnall at all, but I think Jodie acted her ass off. I think she did everything she possibly could.
Yep.
And I'm really sad that it's going out with a whimper. And I'm happy for her. She's had a baby. She has moved on, right? Yeah. Which I'm really glad for her. She's not hanging about looking at her Twitter feed, wondering how people are keeping her in mind, right? So I'm so glad for that. But it really does feel like a whimper, and for the first female Doctor, like it's just, I'm sad. I'm happy for Ncuti, looking forward to that. It's going to be great. But I just think they bungled this era.
They really did
from beginning to end.
You remember that Comic-Con when they launched her and she she was the belle of the ball, and like she came out during the Ashley Eckstein fashion show, and it was just like there was a euphoria about this, and then like that's it. That was the first big spot. They did that right. And then that's it in regards to promoting and getting excited about the show.
It's like the best example of peaking too early that I've just about ever seen, right? Like it's just been downhill from there. And that they did that magnificently. It was the best. And then it just didn't serve her well. So I'm sad too.
Having 20 episodes over 5 years or whatever it is, like a sparse amount anyway.
A shocking I can't remember who tweeted it out. I apologize to the person who tweeted this. It might have been Paul Kirkley, who said, as of like a couple weeks ago, Jodie Whittaker passed David Tennant as the longest serving modern Doctor in terms of like, years, days, months, and everything. The longest serving, which of course will be continue to go on for a couple months in October when her last episode airs. 31 episodes over like 5 years is just it's unconscionable. How
many did 10 and a half?
More
than that. Yeah.
More than that, because he had 3 13-episode seasons and then Christmas specials and a year of specials as well. So, and as you were saying, Heather, I mean, this is the result. There's no buzz about Doctor Who. There's no one dressed up as Doctor Who. Doctor Who is an afterthought right now, and it's sad. But things are looking up. As I say, we're just sort of waiting to get this last episode of an old era over with so we can get on to the new shiny. And according to Bloomberg, this dropped this past week, Bloomberg reports that Disney is in talks with the BBC, to stream Doctor Who worldwide. That, because I've been beating this drum for several months now, because I always thought that Doctor Who needs to sort of be on a streaming service to compete with the Lord of the Rings, with the House of the Dragons, with the Star Treks of the world, to actually get the buzz up there. And I was thinking, well, not a lot of places have HBO Max, but that they have a current streaming deal right there with them now. BBC iPlayer isn't worldwide or anything like that, but Disney Plus is. And this is beyond my wildest dreams if this was to actually happen. What are your thoughts?
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So do we think that this, I mean, I don't really understand this part of the world, the media world, but is this possibly indicative of some future production collaboration as well?
I don't think so.
Or is it just
no, I think it's just distribution. From what I can tell.
What's fascinating is that Disney, Disney owns everything. They own like 45% of all material on Earth, I think, as well as like,
and we'll sue you over the rest.
Yeah, they own a lot of archive, having bought up like 20th Century Fox and Marvel and everything else. Like they own a lot of content, and I don't know how much content on Disney Plus isn't actually owned by them and just acquired. So this feels kind of interesting. But what it does say is that this is like, that rare sort of family entertainment, which kind of really fits well with the Disney Plus. Like they could have a whole thing. Here's some family entertainment. You can watch this science fiction show as a family, kind of like the Marvel Universe in a little bit. Those sort of things I think is appeals to both adults and children and such. And so it kind of plays well to that. It wouldn't leave the BBC. The Bloomberg reports that BBC would also air the program alongside the Disney Plus service. What I'm curious about is, would that mean that it would drop on Disney Plus regardless and the BBC would air it when they air it? Or would Disney Plus have to wait until BBC One on a Saturday night or something airs it and then Disney can drop it? I'm not too sure if Disney would agree to such a thing. So I'm curious if where this is, it's early stages according to this. There's no guarantee a deal has been reached, but the fact that people are actually, who are involved in it are talking about it is an exciting thing, I think.
Well, BBC America would do same day airing.
Yeah.
And it would do did the world simulcast when we had those. So I don't know if the BBC is completely committed to having that, because that was older days, right?
Very older days. Yeah. Like the world
in terms of reach, this is because even HBO Max doesn't have this kind of reach. This is worldwide, right?
Yeah.
I mean, presuming they allow it to go worldwide, and there's not some weird. Although I haven't the only difference I run into in Canada is that we don't have Hulu. We have Star within Disney Plus, but you're basically getting more or less the same thing, except for the stuff renewing a day later. Like it's not the live aspect of what Hulu is, or how Hulu will like something shows on NBC and then it's an hour later it's on Hulu. That doesn't really apply here, but generally speaking, there's not a whole lot of weird rights nonsense to do with Disney Plus that I can tell, probably because they're a giant juggernaut. And I'm loath to say, hey, I'm really happy this giant monstrosity of capitalism is gonna put its icy tendrils into Doctor Who. But on the other hand, somebody's gonna, so I might as well be the people reaching the most kids.
Right?
Well, and Disney seems to know something about branding and marketing. I don't know, but they seem to have some competency there.
They do a little bit.
If it's arm's length, I'm cool with it. Like if it's okay, you could distribute this, but you're not telling us how to make it. Then which I'm sure is the case. A lot of fans are like, well, that's exactly what they're saying. That is a quote. But basically, there's a difference between producing this thing and distributing it, and I don't think a lot of people understand that.
Yeah, and there's also we're linking to a few things because we're catching up on news for the past 3 weeks, and there was an interview with what's his name, Tom Fussell, CEO of BBC Studios and Hollywood Reporter, a couple weeks ago, that mentions about they ask him, would you be interested in setting up like more Brit boxes around, like basically, starting your own streaming services? And they go, they're good and stuff, but I think we're sort of looking towards more, maybe making deals with existing streamers more so. And this definitely sort of fits in with that. I think people are starting to realize that, the streaming universe sort of splintered off, and now everyone's sort of realizing, well, it's hard to get eyes on screen. So I think a lot of stuff is starting to amalgamate again a little bit, which is interesting. I think that in the US, I don't know when it left, but when Modern Doctor Who was on Netflix in the US, let's face it, that was probably where a lot of people watched it, how they caught up with it. And when it left and it went to Prime Video, I think at some point, and then now it's on HBO Max. And of course, the new series on AMC Plus, which, okay, who has AMC Plus? I don't know. The visibility, the ease of access was no longer there. And I think so many people have Disney Plus that if Doctor Who was on there, the sky's the limit, I think. So,
and not just new. I would like to see all of New Who on there at some point.
I would assume they would. Just because it would be tough to go, hey, and here's this one show of Doctor Who. I mean, it also sort of, rings true with what we're sort of like trying to self-prophesize with Russell T Davies' desire to have like this massive Doctor Who streaming universe, so to speak. I mean, the best place to do that is on Disney Plus, because they already have a bunch of those anyway. You can just scroll through, watch the latest Avengers movie, and then all of a sudden, oh, hey, there's a Doctor Who there. Let's start watching Doctor Who and stuff. So I really hope this is true, and I hope that all existing deals, i.e. Canada, will be null and void, or will have come to their natural end, because I don't think the BBC, when they're negotiating with Disney Plus, would necessarily want a bunch of other competing streaming services in other countries to, be airing it. So I would hope that they would go with Disney Plus the world around, even in the UK, but it'll air on BBC. I'm hoping that's the case. I mean, we've said on this podcast a few times, Heather, that we think, BBC America's not even at Comic-Con. Probably because BBC America's out of Doctor Who. It hasn't been announced yet, but their enthusiasm for the show is very down. They stopped funding the animations. Their press site has not been updated for like almost a year with regards to Doctor Who. I think they're out. I think this is the end of their involvement with Doctor Who. I
think it might be the end of their deal. I mean, they basically are offering old shows and documentaries about the environment. That's kind of, if you look at their site, that's all that's there anymore. So it makes me wonder what they're really doing at a corporate level.
I wonder too. We made fun of this about 3 weeks ago in our last regular episode, is that like basically a day of programming amounted to about 6 hours of Star Trek Next Generation reruns and G.I. Jane and the Hurt
British.
Locker. Very British. This is very much the BBC. So we're basically just all waiting, again, as I say, for that last Jodie Whittaker episode to air so we can get on with being excited about Doctor Who again. It's such a shame. It's like
you said, Heather, it's kind of a affront to Jodie Whittaker in a way.
It is, and it's up to Russell T Davies to be the one to sort of say, oh, but before I say anything, we have Jodie Whittaker's wonderful finale that we have to look forward to, because he's the only person speaking up for Doctor Who right now, which is really sad.
Yeah.
Very sad. Also, I should mention that, speaking of, we're just sort of, there's a news list, people. It's on our website at radiofreeskaro.com. I'm sort of jumping around a little bit just because based on, relevance and things. But Segun Akinola, in the latest issue of Doctor Who magazine, number 580, confirmed, but perhaps we were all sort of thinking would happen anyway. He's leaving. The musician Segun Akinola will also be departing at the end of the Jodie Whittaker era, so it'll be a clean break. There will be almost no one. Nikki Wilson, also interviewed in Doctor Who magazine, produced for the past 10 years, is also moving on. So yeah, this feels like a very fresh new start for Doctor Who.
It's like an exodus.
Yeah. It really is.
Kind of sad because Segun Akinola's music's great and it was different. Yeah. I'm not complaining about Murray Gold's music is great. Segun Akinola's music is also great and quite different. Great, yeah. So I was like, yeah, that's too bad. I don't want to see more stuff that he does.
I've over the years planted my flag on we need a female showrunner or a showrunner of color if we really want to break through into the new era of, having this show reflect the human population. But given that that's where my standard banner lies, or is planted. Given that, thank God they picked RTD next, because can you imagine if it was like, I think part of what's keeping our flagging hope alive is that RTD's next. Otherwise, this exodus would feel like, are they going to stop the show? Right? It'd be just so depressing. So, the more people leave, the more I'm like, okay, but RTD's here. He's excited. He cannot contain himself.
Yep.
It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay.
He's already done more TV appearances in the last 3 months than Chris Chibnall did for pretty much his entire 5-year run on Doctor Who.
Almost by accident. Just, we'll have mono. I guess Russell T Davies here. The last 3 minutes of the one show. Okay, sure. Talk about Doctor Who. Ooh, but I can't say too much. But, it's a 90-minute special. It's wonderful. But then we'll watch that. Then I'll be able to talk about my stuff. And it's like, yeah.
Well, he's really in relationship with us as a fan. I mean, I don't think I understood this as clearly when someone divorced us. You're like out in the cold and you're like, oh, I know what this feels like now, right? Where Chibs basically treated us as like some stranger or something, right? Or a patron at the restaurant where all we do is we come in to be served and that's our entire investment in it. Whereas, with RTD, it's a relationship. It's a love affair between production and fans. And it goes back and forth. And I think that's part of the appeal of the show is there is a family sense between the fans and production that I haven't experienced in any of the other shows that I follow passionately. So again, I'm glad RTD is the one to pick up the helm next. And I do hope that it gets passed to someone who has a non-white male identity next after RTD so that we can have what is that like to have the ship being steered by someone like that. But I'm grateful that he's taking the helm. What I'm assuming is going to be some transition period.
Yeah. Or
to completely pander to Stephen. This is Gerald Ford taking over from Richard Nixon.
Wow. Oh, wow. Gerald Ford? Come on. Really?
He was kind of a caretaker for a little bit.
Oh, I know. I don't,
wasn't that bad a guy.
I think RTD is going to be a little more than a caretaker.
Well, yes, I know. I'm just trying to pander to you primarily.
Yeah, I know. I mean, again, we're all just assuming that there's going to be a bunch of Doctor Who spin-off series that will take all of our time up all year round, and maybe that's a time to have hey, guess what? There's a new spin-off show that will air in between Ncuti Gatwa's first 2 seasons. Maybe a different writer, perhaps a person of color, perhaps a woman or something like that, can be that showrunner for that show, that sort of thing. Kind of like how Star Wars does it. Like Deborah Chow did, was what directed all the Obi-Wan, the Obi-Wan show, and Dave Filoni did the other ones. Like they're getting different voices for the Star Wars universe. I hope that if Doctor Who goes the same route that we would have a similar sort of setup. But that's all speculation. But yeah, it's all towards getting Doctor Who another. I bet you, Heather, that next year at San Diego Comic-Con in 2023, there will be a much larger Doctor Who presence. I am hoping. With regards to Russell T Davies and co. And whatever the most recent, I mean, the rumor is, I heard a rumor that the first Tennant episode will actually air on New Year's Day. I don't know about that. I don't know if there's any base to that, but it will certainly air. There will certainly be something coming in November of that year, and it's the 60th anniversary, and Russell T Davies is involved, and maybe Ncuti Gatwa will be there, and David Tennant will be there, perhaps. So here's looking forward to San Diego Comic-Con next year, when there's some actual proper mention of the show on the floor of the convention center in San Diego.
This reminds me of how weird things were before when Doctor Who was the cosplay of choice and there was very little Star Trek, which exactly what you said, Heather.
Yeah.
They're cranking out the Star Trek and probably the Star Wars too. There's probably plenty of Star Wars cosplay, I would assume too.
Well, it's a mainstay. There's always tons of Star Wars cosplay. Yeah. It is strange because I remember the 50th of Star Trek, and I was really looking forward, and there was like nothing. Like it was, everyone was asleep. So, but again, there wasn't a lot of content on the 50th of Star Trek. There wasn't there. We had a movie. We had the, the alternate timeline movies were coming out, and that's it, right? So definitely content is how you have fans. I did remember though today, now again, I don't know if I'm going to make it in Hall H, but we actually have some COVID brain. Anyway, Matt Smith's going to be there today for House of Dragon.
Oh, House of Dragon, right,
yes.
yeah.
And Jenna Coleman is going to be there for Sandman. And they're all stacked today in Hall H.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So there will be some kind of, on the down low Doctor Who action today.
some related stuff. People who are in Doctor Who will be.
Yeah, if you squint hard enough and really wish hard, it's Doctor Who content.
Yeah. Well, that's good. People will go like, hello, Jenna Coleman. I know you're in Sandman, but what was your favorite episode of Doctor Who?
You know that's going to happen.
Leave me alone, she says.
It's almost impossible to ask a question at Hall H. I mean, literally, to ask a question Hall H, that has to be your goal for the day. That has to be the one thing you're going to do, and you've got to plan how you're going to handle your line. You got to know where you're going to see. I mean, you've got to be like, you got to be at least in the first 20 in the room, and you got to know exactly where you're going to sit. And there's this row of chairs right next to the microphone, and you got to plant yourself there. And it's the only way to ask a question. So anyway, but we might get someone who's going to ask Clara what her favorite episode of Doctor Who was.
Someone might have stayed up all night, waiting in line, waiting for that precious chair next to the microphone for the audience questions.
Well, we Whovians are a little desperate, so
what? How dare you?
Someone's going to ask, Matt Smith, which other Doctor he would be if he wasn't 11.
Yeah.
Oh God! Could you please recite these lines from the War Doctor?
Yeah. Oh man. Oh, conventions.
No, say we're not like that, please.
I want you to do your speech from the Pandoric Opens, but I want you to do it as number 2.
Yeah. No, you're not doing it right.
Let me go up there and help you.
Yeah.
You, a trained actor.
We might actually get a question like, how is it different to play a Targaryen versus Doctor? I mean, that might happen.
Well, I had a different wig.
For one.
I had a different wig. I had a blonde wig for this one. You'll remember I had a different wig for my last episode, which was 10 years ago. And let's say
one is evil and one is good.
Yeah.
100% more dragon content.
Mm-hmm. Very true.
100% more dragon content. Oh my God, Warren, you crack me up.
Thank you.
There's also other. We have links to the show notes. There's a couple of things that got posted, like business news. Business. BBC Studios posts record annual financials as production sales jump 56%. So BBC Studios is making a lot of stuff worldwide, including Doctor Who. There's also an interesting tweet that compared the budgets between the BBC drama compared to like literally everything else, and it's tiny compared. Like Stranger Things season 4 cost over $250 million, which is more than the last 3 seasons of Game of Thrones put together. A 6-episode Marvel series is massive. The Crown even takes a lot of money, and then like the annual budget for BBC drama is minuscule compared to that. It was an interesting tweet.
Pocket change
really is. So anyway, that's I think we've covered off a large chunk of the first half of this news-based episode. But
you're burying the lead, my friend.
I know I am. We're talking about Gallifrey.
You know what I'm talking about.
It's impressive you have such a long news list, given that nothing is happening. It's like crickets.
It's amazing.
So well done.
Well, first off, I'd like to thank the Doctor Who universe for recognizing our 2-week vacation and of Fluid Links episodes and not putting out any major news, which is great. Even Gallifrey 1 waited. Thank you very much, Sean. The first guest announcement for Gallifrey 1 dropped this past week. A whole host of guests are coming to Gallifrey 1, including Colin Baker, Janet Fielding, Sophie Alder, the latter two, of course, will be in the next episode of Doctor Who. Wendy Padbury makes a return. Fraser Hines, Michael Troughton, Ray Holman, the costume designer for the Jodie Whittaker era, as well as Matt Smith's first year as well, and Series 9 he's been bounced in and about of Doctor Who. He's going to be a guest. Derek Martin, Richard Price, Simon Carew, and then Gary Russell, Tony Lee, Paul Cornell, Jodie Hauser, Lisa McMullen, and John Darney. Lisbeth Miles, our friend Liz, is finally a
friend of the show,
proper guest, having written about 86 Big Finish plays over the last 3 years.
That's accurate.
She is, she's become one of the most prolific authors for Big Finish, so she's going to be there. Rob Ritchie returns. Matthew Jacobs and Vanessa Viol, who of course were on this show back in May to talk about Doctor Who Am I. I think they're hoping to have maybe a screening at the convention if the fates allow, which will be exciting. We talked about it. It's a very good documentary, so so that'll be fun too. So there you go. Tickets available, Gallifrey1.com. For the 60th anniversary of Doctor Who and the best convention on Earth. So please come on down. It's going to be a grand old time at Gallifrey.
That is
1.
not the lead I was referring to.
What's the lead? Well,
the lead I was referring to, unless I blanked out, is the return of Vam, my friend Vam.
I did.
So excited.
I did. Yeah. So this has been. Sorry, Warren. Sorry.
This is important.
The big rumor about is because I think they even had like some it was basically from set reports is where people are getting this from, is the return of a Doctor Who Confidential style program called Doctor Who Unleashed. This would be fantastic. I miss Doctor Who Confidential. I think it was. You know what? And since the Star Wars shows have also sort of had their own thing at the end of each season, they sort of had a behind the scenes making of, and it's proven very popular. The fact that Confidential / Doctor Who Unleashed is making a return makes me very happy. Obviously, you're happy about it, Warren. Otherwise, you wouldn't have pointed to it. Yeah.
Well, it's just we're the House of Vam here, so I mean, we should probably be yelling about it.
That's true.
That's not official? I thought I saw an official release.
It's not official.
It wasn't. It's just rumored. Okay.
Just rumor, yeah, just rumor. But I mean, Radio Times has been talking about it for a while. The Mirror claimed to have the scoop on it this past week. They're talking about it, so it feels like it's been in the works. I don't remember the name of the host who has sort of been spotted. Stephen Powell, who's a BBC radio presenter and gaming reporter. So it looks like that, and maybe he was seen on set during the location shooting this past month. But that seems to have tipped people off that this is an actual thing that's also returning. So yep, hooray! If that is the case.
Mirror? Is it the Mirror or the Sun that has the annoyingly great track record of getting these things right?
The Mirror is, despite all their other clickbaity headlines as I scroll down a page and stuff, they often get the Doctor Who stuff right. So credit to the Mirror for that.
That'll be really exciting because we've got, I don't know if I couldn't tell where these were coming from, but we got, maybe 3 or 4 minutes after an episode of some behind the scenes stuff, but who doesn't miss Confidential? 20 minutes of Vam? It was for every episode?
Or more.
Yeah.
It was the one with Tennant going through his favorite episodes is just great. Yeah, I love that one still to this day.
I know, it's wonderful. Yeah, they used to be 45 minutes in the early days, and then they had chopped it down to about half an hour once they realized there's only so many times you can explain how green screen works, and everyone sort of understands that now. And so but I mean, anything more, because often they would put on their YouTube channel and say, hey, here's how we did this scene. And I think, yeah, right. It would be like 4 or 5 minutes long. And it was like, it's not really in depth as you think it is.
That is a good use of a YouTube channel, frankly. But
it is. Yeah, it was the best use for the YouTube channel. But here, having something that's actually, on Disney Plus potentially right there, saying, hey, want to see how they made this episode? Well, now you can watch it.
And Disney has a history of doing that with their own properties. Like they do it with Marvel, they do it with Star Wars. They usually wait till the end of a season and then they come out. Marvel Assembled is where they do the hour-long behind-the-scenes thing for whatever their new Disney Plus show is. And sometimes the movies, too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think this is indicative that we might be getting some shorts back again, right? Where we get these little one-off short things that Moffat and RTD did a lot of. So, I think just more content, I'm hoping, right? This is indicative of that. So pretty exciting.
It would be exciting. It's exciting when they make Doctor Who. Just saying, it's fun. It's fun and exciting. What you're doing now. If you're there's the Doctor Who science exhibition, which I think is in Manchester right now or something like that. Or there's a Doctor Who something. It's in Liverpool right now. Once that ends in December, it'll be moving to Edinburgh, Scotland from December until the end of April, December 10th until April 2023. The Doctor Who science exhibition to Scotland. Of all places, the place which is often referenced but has never actually featured as a location, a proper shooting location, now gets the official BBC.
Meaning they didn't actually shoot there, but didn't the Doctor drop Clara off?
Yeah,
in Edinburgh.
Dropped Sarah off in Aberdeen. According
but
to...
I thought at the end of what was Capaldi's first episode?
Oh,
Deep Breath.
Yeah, Deep Breath.
Yeah, doesn't he? Don't they go there for? No, maybe not.
Maybe not. Well, they've never shot there, is what I mean to say. Like, oftentimes it has been set in Scotland. They've never actually.
Got it.
Shot
Okay.
In Scotland, yeah.
Not even the classic show?
Not even the classic show. No.
That's surprising.
Yep. Not even Terror of the Zygote. Believe it or not, Warren, they never went all the way up to Scotland to shoot.
Well, to find an appropriately puppety-looking Loch Ness monster.
Right. They could have just found one in the wild. They could have just found one. Anyway, the Loch Ness monster will probably feature in there somewhere because, science Doctor Who and all that. But so, if you're in Scotland, opportunity knocks, Scottish Doctor Who fans. You finally have the official Doctor Who World of Wonders science exhibition coming in December of this calendar year. Let's talk about some tat. This is sad news, actually. Eaglemoss, who of course has been responsible for a whole line of different figurines and such across all different genres and properties, but maker of the Doctor Who figurine collection, usually in the magazine form, has sadly gone into bankruptcy, and so this probably means the end of the treasured Doctor Who figurine collection. Well, you have some of these. You have like how many of these do you have, Warren? I can't remember now.
I don't think I have. Oh, yeah, no, you're right. I do. I have a Mandrill, and I have a Quark, I think, and a couple other ones.
You got a War Machine, too, I think, or something like that.
Oh, yeah, I definitely have a War Machine as well, yes. Yeah. Which is too big and too delicate to actually sit in my... Sadly, because I have so damn many action figures, most of them, except the Doctors and a few customs that people have sent me, are those are on a shelf, and the rest are in a bin. So, and the War Machine he's a delicate little flower for a metal tank. So, so I try to keep him outside of that. Him and the Mechanoid are exiled from the bin. Very exciting behind the scenes Dahlia news here for everybody.
Very exciting. Well, it's very sad. So that's too bad. Our hearts go out to the people who made those, because they did excellent work and put a lot of love and care into those figurines. And so,
yeah, they're true fans.
They really are. They really are.
Yeah.
There's Space 1999 stuff. I'm not a huge fan of the Space 1999, but those that were served very well by their stuff.
Mm-hmm. Oh. Well, that's too bad. Well, we'll talk about better stuff then. They're still on until July 29th. This has been going for about the past 3 weeks now. This is what happens when you catch up on 3 weeks of news. But Humble Bundle is offering a whole bunch of Titan comics. Basically, you donate what you want, but the more you donate, the more you can unlock and then download. You can pay like $45 Canadian. Basically, gets you a ton of stuff, like a whole 56 different comics, I believe. So there's different bundles you can donate. It all goes to a good cause, to charity. So yeah, links in the show notes, but it goes until July 29th. So into this week, you can still have access to that. What else we got here in the world of Tat? Beth Axford has been on this show in the past, and she has a new unofficial Doctor Who quiz book coming out September 29th. It's only on Amazon.co.uk right now from what I can see, but yeah, that's fun. I like Doctor Who quizzes, and like Doctor Who Trivial Pursuit, and I have the big Doctor Who quiz book by Jacqueline Rayner kicking around here somewhere, so this is another entry into the canon of Doctor Who quiz books. So links in the show notes if you want to pre-order that. What else happened while we were away? I haven't listened to this yet, but the Matthew Sweet, who's of course does all the interviews and stuff on the Blu-ray sets, put out a on BBC Radio 3, I think it was, links in the show notes, about he and guests talk about the restoration of the two Dalek Doctor Who movies, which came out on 4K Blu-ray recently, and even went into screening and stuff. So I think that's available for the next, I don't know, came out July 14th. Might be there for like another couple weeks. So if you want to listen to that, again, links in the show notes. I know I will want to listen to it, but I have a lot of podcasts to catch up on, which is, this is why I don't watch TV shows, because I also have podcasts that I have to listen to.
You're out of spite too. You also don't watch TV shows.
Well, I sometimes I want to, like, I'm actually legitimately excited by the Lord of the Rings and the Game of Thrones ones, but I'm like, I don't, television watching is not actually a fundamental part of my day-to-day life, and so that's
fair.
Finding
totally
time
fair.
for them, like, oh god, I gotta find time. Like, we haven't watched Stranger. Like, Erica and I are legitimately interested in Stranger Things, but then like season 4. And then we go like first episode, 80 minutes. All the episodes, 80 minutes. The last 2 episodes are like 2.5 hours long. It's like, no, don't. So we haven't started it. It's too much.
Although I have to say that the new LOTR trailer is pretty nice. I don't know how they're going to do this or if it's going to be good or bad, but the trailer looks pretty good. The new San Diego Comic-Con trailer that I think dropped yesterday.
Friday. Well,
mm-hmm.
I haven't even seen that. Warren, I haven't even seen that. Got no time. I got no time to watch trailers. I'm a busy man.
Okay, sure. You bet.
I don't. Heather, are you interested in the as you called the Lotr, the new series coming out? I mean, I have to admit, I'm getting mildly confused because both will probably feature some sort of dragon or swords and mysticism and stuff.
Wow. Oh, I keep getting them confused. They have different offsites, and I keep like thinking I'm searching for one, like to figure out where it is or when is the panel, and I'm looking for the other one. So they're totally confused in my mind. So it feels very like 5 or 6. Well, I guess Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings overlap at some point.
I don't think they
did. The movies and Game of Thrones.
No,
it feels in my mind.
I think
like
The Hobbit was around when
them.
Game of Thrones was.
Yeah, The Hobbit did. Yeah, the Game of Thrones started 2009, 10, something like that.
Somewhere around there. Yeah. It was around 2010, I think.
Yeah.
But then, and I think The Hobbit. I think The Hobbit's around 2011. So yeah, somewhere in there they would have mixed and matched. So The Hobbit is pretty kiddie compared to Game of Thrones. Actually, Lord of the Rings is pretty kiddie compared to Game of Thrones.
Yeah, but still, even the fonts look alike. I mean, it's easy to get these things confused.
True.
At the beginning of my COVID quarantine, the house I was staying at had all of the Hobbit movies, extended versions, and all of the Lord of the Rings extended versions. I'm like, great, this will set me up. Little did I know I was going to be positive for 14 days. But so I have just watched all of them in chronological order.
Oh, dear.
I have to say, the Hobbit movies are really good. I think they're... I think we had high expectations, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as always happens when you have really high expectations, nothing ever lives up to them. But it's pretty fun to watch them in chronological order. And I have to say, Lord of the Rings is pretty violent.
Still CEO though.
Yeah.
It's true. Yeah. And I haven't watched Game of Thrones again. So maybe if I were to watch them from beginning to end, then I would think they were more violent.
But I have the same problem with that, and I did watch it from beginning to end. I've never gotten a loss because everybody complained about how bad the ending was. So I'm like, well, I'm not investing 7 seasons in something that could suck at the end. So that's what keeps me from going back to this. I
mean, remember, the fandom was split. Like, I'm on the I didn't like the ending side, but, you know, some of my friends were absolutely think it was perfectly appropriate. So I think you should watch it and see what you should. Maybe. I didn't hate it, but Stephen, I think you're more pro ending of Game of Thrones than I am.
I'm the one person that I'm the one person that actually watched it towards the end because I think everyone bailed at the second last episode. And I thought, well, I'm going to be that one person that watches that last episode. Boy, I still remember you remember how much of a water cooler show that was? It was really the last water cooler show was Game of Thrones.
Absolutely the last one.
The absolute last thing. And then everyone hated the last few episodes, especially the second last one. I just remember that week of vitriol leading up to the final episode, and it just felt like everyone was just bailing. And I thought, well, I'm going to watch it, and I liked it enough.
Spite watch.
I liked it enough, but I don't know. It was. I came around to Game of Thrones. I didn't like it at first. Then I came around, and I've even watched it twice. Maybe a third time will be in the offing at some point in the near future.
Maybe I'll throw in the old ones just to watch them concurrently with House of the Dragon. Who knows? Or probably I won't do any of that. I'll just read a book is what I'll end up doing.
Probably.
Given that House of the Dragon is a prequel, I do not feel compelled to watch Game of Thrones prior to it dropping.
Yeah, true.
I probably will feel compelled. Well, I don't know. I don't know what I'll do, but I like it when they do the prequels because then I don't have to watch the whole thing.
Unless they
episode, right?
Yeah, unless they do a big knowing nod, they go, "Oh, maybe you're something. Maybe your head will be cut off and put on a stake." And they'll look to the camera and go, "Wink."
This is what you hate about Star Wars, by the way, Stephen.
I know when they it's a prequel, so it's set before, so you don't have to worry. But then they just make so many references and like, oh. Well, could that
as
happen?
I've said before, a lot of that is due to your own sense of completionism. I see a Chewbacca-like guy that's apparently a big deal. I don't care.
No, you know what?
I just carry on with my life.
I've compared watching like extended universe stuff where the Doctor Strange, the second movie, Erica watched, and I was in the room when it happened. And it was like, okay, I'll sit by him. Having not watched any of the streaming series, having forgotten nearly everything that happened in literally all the movies that came before it. And I thought, well, I'm sure I could just sort of watch and carry on like 20 minutes, and they're going, I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
No idea who any of these people are.
I think that movie you really had to have watched. Like, it was heavily built upon.
It was.
I liked it.
I know you liked it, but you've watched all the series and stuff.
That's true. And also, I'm a Sam Raimi nerd, so that's part of why I
and so like I just felt completely outside. Just going. I compared it to when I was a kid. I'm going to talk about three things here. One, I'm going to talk about Canadian television. I'm going to talk about old hockey. I'm going to talk about French CBC. So get ready.
It is a hat trick in hockey terms.
It is. It's like watching. As a kid, whenever on Saturday nights they would air yet another Maple Leafs blowout loss on the main channel instead of the Oilers game on locally, and so oftentimes I would switch over to CBC French and watch the Habs game. And now it was in French, of course. And I could pick up what was going on, obviously. I recognized the players' names, but I missed a lot of the nuance because it was in a different language. And I compare that experience to watching a Marvel movie now without having done any of the homework. Again, I kind of get the basic gist of what's going on, but I have no idea what anybody's talking about. That was my experience. Did that analogy work for you, Warren? I hope it did.
No, barely.
Okay.
This reminds me of watching Battlestar Galactica in French because it was more robots.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if they're in French.
Yeah. Anyway, such as that. Let's burn through some the last Big Finish announced a whole bunch of stuff, and then we'll get the hell out of here and let Heather get on to San Diego Comic-Con. Big Finish announced a bunch of things. Out now is Beyond War Games, the first Big Finish with Michael Troughton, Gallifrey 1 guest Michael Troughton, playing his father Patrick Troughton in the Second Doctor Adventures. That's out now. Coming in September is Torchwood: Death in Venice, featuring Ace. Ace joins Torchwood. That's exciting. I wonder if that ties into the final Jodie Whittaker special and why Ace is so proficient with a gun, perhaps.
Probably not.
Probably not. Third Doctor Adventures Kaleidoscope is coming out October of 2022. Star Cops returns. Yes, Andrew Smith let me know about this a few days before it happened. The High Frontier 1 is coming out November of 2022. And two things coming in December is Unit Brave New World, The Visitants, and The War Master, Escape from Reality, also coming in December of 2022. So there we go. That was a bunch of news that we caught up on.
Sarah Jane Adventures. Did you say Sarah Jane Adventures?
I did miss it because I forgot to put it in the news list. But yes, Anjali Mohindra is returning to be to Ronnie, her character, of course, from the Sarah Jane Adventures, and new episodes about that. So thank you, Heather. I completely missed that. I'm sorry.
No worries.
Yeah.
No worries.
Yeah. So there. Well, thanks, Heather. Thanks for getting up and cramming this podcast recording into your busy weekend of San Diego Comic-Con. This is on the Saturday, so the stuff that you will see today will have come out already. But what for the next couple days are you hoping to visit there?
Well, like I said, I'm hoping by some miracle I can get in for the Star Trek and the Sandman panels in Age, but we'll see. Mm-hmm. And I don't really have a lot of plans tomorrow. I kind of like to just wander on Sundays. So, and I'm keeping it low profile because I just had COVID and I'm negative, everyone, very negative, just so you know. I'm not wandering around the biggest convention in the world with COVID. Mm-hmm. So I'm just taking it easy and we'll just see what happens. But, it'd be nice if I could get into H today. We'll have to see.
Cross fingers.
Yep.
Yeah, cross fingers. Yeah.
Right. Well, next week, the full complement is back on board. Chris is back from the UK, and the Miniscope returns. An awesome Miniscope, if I do say so. Jess Jerkovic joins for the Miniscope on Doctor Who, controversial Doctor Who composer, Carrie Blyton. Patreon supporters, as far as heard this already. It came out last month, I believe, in June or something like that, when we recorded it. It's a doozy. Listen next week for that, as the gang is back together. On the last day of July, 2022. I don't know why that's so significant. It just means that we're 1 month closer to the last episode of the Jodie Whittaker era, so we can get on with the rest of the Doctor Who production process. Anyway, thanks everyone for joining us today. Until next time, I am Stephen in Edmonton.
Warren in Vancouver.
And Heather in San Diego.
So long for now.
You've been listening to Radio Free Skaro. Find us online at radiofreeskaro.com. Follow us on Twitter and Tumblr at Radio Free Skaro. Subscribe to us on iTunes and donate to the show at patreon.com/Radio Free Skaro. Thank you.